When we talk about pushing ourselves to be happy every day, we aren't talking about forcing an emotion or pretending to feel something that isn't there. We are talking about a quiet discipline of the heart, a gentle but intentional turning of the soul toward what brings it peace, what nourishes it, and what keeps it rooted when everything around us tries to pull it away. Happiness isn't a constant state that arrives without effort. It is a practice, a daily alignment, a choice that must be renewed even when the heart feels tired. And the first step in this journey is understanding that happiness is not something outside of you waiting to be found. It is something inside you waiting to be awakened. Life will not arrange itself perfectly just so you can be happy. There will always be circumstances, disappointments, people, and moments that challenge your inner balance. Happiness grows when you stop waiting for perfect conditions and instead begin planting seeds of meaning inside the imperfect soil of your day. It starts when you decide just for today that your heart matters enough to fight for, that your peace is worth protecting, that your joy is not optional or secondary, but necessary for the life you want to live. Every morning you wake up with a choice. Let the weight of yesterday define you, or step into the newness of today with a heart that is willing to try again. And trying again does not mean you fail. It means you're alive. It means your spirit is still reaching, still hoping, still believing that there is something in this world worth holding on to. Pushing yourself to be happy every day is not denying your pain. It is refusing to let pain become your identity. It is acknowledging what hurts, but also acknowledging what heals. It is allowing yourself to grieve what you lost while still being open to what can be rebuilt. Happiness is often found in the small things, in the unseen mercy, in the quiet moments you overlook because you are searching for something bigger. But the heart does not grow from the grand moments alone. It grows from the tiny acts of intention you carry out every single day. Sometimes happiness looks like stepping away from the noise. There is a kind of inner peace that arrives when you give yourself permission to disconnect from what exhausts you. The world is constantly asking for more productivity, more perfection, more achievement. And in the race to meet these expectations, you forget that your heart has limits. It was never designed to run endlessly without pause, without reflection, without returning to its source of strength. The truth is, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot radiate joy when your soul is depleted. So pushing yourself to be happy every day sometimes means choosing rest over pressure, silence over noise, presence over distraction. It means noticing when your heart is whispering that it needs stillness and honoring that whisper with compassion. There will be days when happiness feels natural, effortless, like warm sunlight settling on your skin. But there will also be days when happiness feels distant, when your heart feels heavy, when your thoughts spiral in directions you didn't choose. On those days, the practice becomes more important than ever. Happiness isn't measured by how easily it comes. It's measured by how gently you return to it. When fear creeps in, choose one small thought that brings comfort. When anxiety rises, choose one slow breath that grounds you. When sadness lingers, choose one act of kindness toward yourself or another that widens your heart. These small choices don't remove the hardship, but they shift the direction of your heart, guiding it toward healing instead of despair. To push yourself to be happy every day also means learning the difference between temporary distractions and genuine nourishment. Many people chase things that give momentary pleasure but leave a deeper emptiness after. True happiness is rooted in meaning, not in entertainment. It grows from values, not from impulses. It strengthens through spiritual alignment, not through emotional avoidance. Ask yourself daily, what brings my heart closer to peace? What distances me from it? What thoughts lift me? What thoughts drain me? What habits expand my spirit? What habits shrink it? When you become aware of your internal landscape, you begin to choose more intentionally. And intention is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating happiness. One of the hardest lessons in life is accepting that happiness is not the absence of struggle. It is the resilience to rise through struggle. Every hardship you encounter carries a hidden invitation to grow, to see differently, to become stronger, softer, deeper. When you push yourself to be happy, you are not ignoring the pain. You are choosing to elevate your spirit above it. You are choosing not to drown in the weight of what happened, but to swim toward what is possible. You learn to treat your wounds with mercy, your mistakes with gentleness, and your past with compassion. You become someone who can walk through fire without letting it burn your hope. Gratitude is one of the strongest paths toward daily happiness. It is impossible to be deeply grateful and deeply miserable at the same time. Gratitude shifts your gaze from what is missing to what is present, from what hurt you to what helped you, from what fell apart to what is still holding you together. Every day, find one small thing to appreciate: the breath in your lungs, the light in your room, the person who smiled at you, the moment of quiet you were given. Happiness grows in these tiny acknowledgments. The heart expands when it learns to notice what it once overlooked. Another part of pushing yourself to be happy every day is being mindful of the voices you allow into your life. Some people uplift you, encourage your growth, and speak light into your darkest moments. Others drain your energy, cloud your thoughts, and feed your fears. You are responsible for protecting your inner space. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not every voice deserves influence over your emotional world. Surround yourself with people who remind you of who you are when you forget, who call you back to your values when you drift, who bring calm instead of chaos. Happiness often requires choosing your company wisely. Sometimes the reason happiness feels distant is because you are holding on to something that no longer belongs in your life. A memory that weighs you down, a relationship that wounds more than it heals, a habit that keeps pulling you backward, a belief about yourself that is rooted in pain rather than truth. Letting go is one of the greatest acts of self-kindness. When you release what harms you, you create space for what nurtures you. The heart cannot carry everything. It must choose what to keep, what to release, what to transform. And every release creates room for peace. Pushing yourself to be happy every day also means acknowledging your emotions with honesty. Suppressing sadness doesn't create happiness. It creates emotional pressure that eventually spills out in ways you cannot control. But allowing yourself to feel without judgment, without shame, sets the heart free. Happiness is not about always feeling light. It is about walking through your heaviness with compassion. Feel what you need to feel, but do not let that feeling define you. Emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. They are meant to pass through, not take root. Healing is also part of the journey toward happiness. Sometimes you must revisit painful places within yourself, not to reopen wounds, but to understand them. You must learn to speak gently to the parts of you that were once silenced, neglected, or misunderstood. You must learn to forgive yourself for the moments you didn't know better, for the choices you made while trying to survive, for the parts of your story that still bring sadness. Healing is not a straight line. Some days you will feel strong, other days you will feel fragile. Both are part of the process. Both are part of becoming someone who can hold happiness with both hands. Joy also grows when you learn to live in the present moment. So much unhappiness comes from being stuck in the past or being anxious about the future. The present moment is the only place where your heart can truly rest. When you slow down and breathe deeply, when you notice the details of your surroundings, when you become aware of the sensations in your body, when you bring your mind back from wandering, you find a peace that the past cannot give and the future cannot guarantee. Be here, be now, be aware. This moment is enough. You are enough within it. To push yourself to be happy every day is to become a guardian of your heart. It is to take responsibility for your inner world, to tend to it with care, to water it with faith, intention, gratitude, and compassion. It requires discipline, but also gentleness, strength, but also softness, commitment, but also flexibility. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, happiness is not something you chase, it is something you create. Choosing gratitude over emotional heaviness is not a simple motivational idea. It is a deep spiritual discipline, a way of shifting the entire posture of your heart so that it leans toward light rather than darkness. Every single day, you carry within you two possibilities. You can carry the heaviness of what went wrong, the weight of what hurt you, the burden of unmet expectations, or you can choose to lift your heart by turning toward what is still good, still present, still beautiful, still healing. Gratitude is not about denying pain. It is about refusing to let pain blind you to everything else. It is not about pretending your struggles don't exist. It is about remembering that struggles do not erase blessings. When you choose gratitude daily, you are choosing to honor the parts of your life that are still whispering hope, even when the louder parts are shouting disappointment. Gratitude becomes the quiet strength that carries you through the noise of your emotions. There will be days when your heart feels heavy for reasons you cannot fully explain. Sometimes the heaviness is triggered by a memory, a loss, a fear, or simply the weight of life pressing on you from many directions. On those days, the mind naturally gravitates toward what feels wrong. It focuses on what you lack, what you wish you had, what slipped through your fingers, what didn't unfold the way you imagined. It is easy to fall into the habit of rehearsing hurt, replaying disappointment, and revisiting emotional wounds. But gratitude interrupts this pattern. It gently takes your heart by the hand and leads it away from the shadows, guiding it toward what brings grounding, clarity, and calm. Gratitude is the inner voice that says, even in this moment of heaviness, there is something still holding you together. Even in this difficulty, there is something to acknowledge, something to appreciate, something that remains untouched by the storm. Gratitude doesn't mean your problems disappear. It doesn't mean your challenges suddenly resolve. It means your perspective shifts in a way that gives you strength to face what you must face. When you choose gratitude, you are training your heart to notice what is working, not just what is broken. You are training your mind to see possibility, not just limitation. You are reminding yourself that life is not defined by a single moment, a single setback, or a single emotion. Gratitude widens your vision so you can see the full landscape of your life, not just the painful corner that demands your attention. It helps you remember that even when one aspect of life feels heavy, another part may be quietly offering light. Daily gratitude is powerful because it creates new emotional pathways. When you consistently choose to focus on what brings warmth instead of what brings heaviness, you reshape your inner world. The brain becomes accustomed to searching for what is good. The heart becomes trained to seek what is gentle. Your entire emotional system begins to respond differently to life. Instead of instinctively reacting with frustration, sadness, or fear, you build the habit of pausing, breathing, and looking for the subtle grace hidden within the moment. This grace is always there. But often your pain speaks louder than your blessings, and without intentional gratitude, it becomes easy to miss the quiet gifts that still surround you. When emotional heaviness settles in your chest, it often feels like a fog that dims your clarity. Gratitude becomes like a soft light shining through that fog. It does not push the fog away instantly, but it gives you just enough visibility to take one step, then another, then another. In this way, gratitude supports your healing process. It gives you the strength to move when you feel paralyzed, to breathe when your emotions feel overwhelming, to hope when your circumstances feel uncertain. Gratitude reminds you that even when everything feels heavy, you are not empty. There is always something within you that can still rise. Gratitude also softens the heart. Emotional heaviness often creates tension, tightness, and internal resistance. You hold your worries like fists clenched around things you cannot control, but gratitude opens your hands. It teaches you to receive the moment, to accept what is, to stop fighting reality, and to find a sense of peace even when life does not match your expectations. A grateful heart is an open heart. It becomes receptive to joy, comfort, and connection. It becomes less rigid and more flexible, less fearful and more trusting, less burdened and more uplifted. Gratitude makes space for light to enter the places where darkness once lived. There is a deep connection between gratitude and emotional resilience. People who practice gratitude regularly are not people who experience fewer hardships. They are people who endure hardships with a softer inner landscape. They bend but do not break. They lose their way but find it again. They feel pain but are not consumed by it. Gratitude teaches you that even when life wounds you, it also gives you the strength to heal. It teaches you that even when something is taken, something else is given. It teaches you that even when a chapter closes, another one opens. Gratitude keeps your heart alive in moments when despair tries to suffocate it. When you choose gratitude over emotional heaviness, you are also choosing to shift your emotional identity. You are no longer someone defined by what went wrong. You are someone shaped by what you overcame. You are no longer someone who carries the weight of every disappointment. You are someone who carries the wisdom gained from each experience. Gratitude transforms your wounds into lessons, your losses into clarity, your setbacks into strength. It turns your emotional heaviness into meaningful insight. It turns your sadness into depth. It turns your fear into growth. It turns your pain into a bridge that connects you to compassion. It is important to acknowledge that gratitude is not always easy. On some days it feels effortless, like breathing. On other days it feels impossible, like lifting something heavier than your heart can bear. But the days when gratitude feels hardest are the days when it is most needed. Those are the days when your heart is trying to carry more than it should, when your mind is clouded, when your spirit is tired. In those moments, even acknowledging one small blessing can shift the direction of your entire emotional experience. It might be something as simple as the breath you are taking, the sunlight in your room, the comfort of your bed, the presence of someone who cares about you, or the ability to feel, think, and choose. Gratitude does not require extraordinary blessings. It grows from ordinary moments. Choosing gratitude every day builds an inner sanctuary that emotional storms cannot destroy. This sanctuary becomes a place you can return to when life becomes overwhelming. It becomes your anchor in uncertainty, your refuge in heartbreak, your compass in confusion. Gratitude allows you to feel heavy emotions without drowning in them. You can acknowledge sadness without becoming sadness. You can feel disappointment without letting it define your identity. You can experience fear without letting it dictate your decisions. Gratitude lifts you just enough so you can see beyond the heaviness. Gratitude is also a form of surrender. It is the recognition that life is not always under your control, and yet there are countless moments of goodness woven into the fabric of your days. This surrender does not mean giving up. It means trusting that life holds more for you than what you can see at this moment. It means trusting that the heaviness you feel today will not last forever. It means trusting that healing is possible, that joy can return, that peace can be restored. Gratitude allows you to loosen your grip on the illusion of control and make space for grace to move in your life. One of the most beautiful aspects of daily gratitude is the way it changes your interactions with others. When your heart is full of appreciation, you become more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. Emotional heaviness often creates irritability, impatience, and a narrowed perspective. But gratitude opens your heart wide enough to see the humanity in others. You begin to notice the kindness in people around you. You begin to appreciate the effort others make. You begin to understand that everyone carries their own burdens, their own heaviness, their own silent battles. Gratitude allows you to respond with gentleness rather than reaction, with empathy rather than frustration. Gratitude also helps you heal relationships. When you focus on what is missing, you overlook what is good. But when you choose gratitude, you begin to see the small acts of care, the moments of connection, the words of encouragement, the gestures of love. You begin to value the presence of people rather than focusing on their flaws. Gratitude shifts relationships from expectation to appreciation. It reminds you that no one owes you perfection, and that beauty often emerges from the imperfect moments shared with others. Another powerful dimension of gratitude is its ability to redirect your internal dialogue. Emotional heaviness often feeds on negative self-talk. I'm not enough. I'm always failing. Nothing ever works for me. But gratitude interrupts these patterns by grounding you in truth. When you acknowledge your strengths, your progress, your growth, your resilience, you begin to speak to yourself with more kindness. You begin to see yourself as someone capable, someone strong, someone evolving. Gratitude helps you build a more compassionate relationship with yourself. Gratitude also strengthens your spiritual grounding. When you reflect on the blessings in your life, you become more aware of the unseen support, the hidden protection, the quiet guidance that shapes your journey. Gratitude deepens your trust, your humility, your sense of connection to something greater than yourself. This connection becomes a source of comfort, especially when emotional heaviness clouds your vision. It reminds you that you are never walking alone, that even in your darkest moments, there is light guiding you forward. Choosing gratitude is a daily commitment. Some days you will succeed effortlessly, other days you will struggle. But the key is consistency. Gratitude is like watering a garden. If you water it daily, even with a few drops, it will grow. If you neglect it, it withers. Your emotional landscape works the same way. Gratitude nourishes it. Emotional heaviness drains it. Every moment of gratitude is like a small seed planted in the soil of your heart. And over time, these seeds bloom into resilience, joy, and inner peace. Returning to stillness when life becomes overwhelming is not a luxury, it is a necessity for the heart. Every day you are pulled in 100 different directions by noise, expectations, responsibilities, and emotions that move like waves inside you. The world constantly asks you to rush, to respond, to keep going, to perform, to produce, to solve everything before you have even taken a moment to breathe. And because the heart is not designed to live in constant motion, you eventually find yourself exhausted, scattered, emotionally unstable, and spiritually disconnected. Stillness is the place where the heart repairs itself. It is where you return when life has stretched you too thin. It is where you find the strength you lost while trying to carry everything on your own. Stillness is not the absence of movement around you. It is the quieting of movement within you. It is the moment when you pause long enough to feel your own breath, to hear the whispers of your soul, to notice the thoughts you have been avoiding, and to reconnect with the deeper truths that get buried under the noise of daily life. Every human being needs stillness, not because they are weak, but because they are human. You were not created to run endlessly. You were created with a heart that needs moments of softness, moments of silence, moments where nothing is expected of you except simply being. Returning to stillness allows you to gather yourself again, to untangle the knots inside you, to remember who you are beneath everything you carry. When life becomes overwhelming, the mind starts to speed up. Thoughts become tangled. Small problems suddenly feel enormous. Simple decisions become confusing. Emotions feel heavier than they actually are. In those moments, rushing only makes things worse. When the mind is spiraling, speed is your enemy. Stillness becomes your anchor. It is the gentle pause that allows the storm inside you to settle just enough for clarity to return. You do not need to solve everything at once. You need to slow your inner world long enough to see clearly again. Most people try to think their way out of overwhelm, but the truth is that clarity comes from stillness, not from overthinking. When you step back, breathe deeply, and come into the present moment, the storm begins to calm. Stillness also teaches you to separate what you can control from what you cannot. When you are overwhelmed, everything feels urgent. Every problem feels like it must be solved immediately. Every emotion feels like an emergency. But stillness shows you that not everything requires your energy. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every emotion is telling you the truth. Stillness creates space between you and your stress. It gives you the wisdom to decide which burdens are yours to carry and which ones you need to release. It helps you notice when you are fighting battles that are not meant for you, holding on to situations that drain your spirit, or trying to control outcomes that were never in your hands. Stillness gives you the power to say no, to step back, to reclaim your emotional boundaries. Returning to stillness is also an act of courage. In silence, you are confronted with your own truth. You hear the fears you have been suppressing, the sadness you have been hiding, the insecurities you pretend not to feel. Many people avoid stillness because they are afraid of what it will reveal. But the heart cannot heal if it refuses to face itself. Stillness requires honesty, patience, and compassion. You must allow your feelings to surface without judgment. You must allow your thoughts to arise without running from them. You must allow your heart to express what it has been holding. In this way, stillness becomes a form of emotional cleansing. It is where the heart lays down its hidden burdens and begins to breathe freely again. Stillness reconnects you with your inner voice. When life is loud, you lose touch with your intuition. You become guided by fear, urgency, pressure, or opinions around you. But in stillness, you can hear the quiet guidance that comes from within. This inner voice is gentle, steady, and honest. It tells you what is right for you, what aligns with your values, what your heart truly needs. When you return to stillness regularly, you stop living reactively. You begin living intentionally. You begin making choices from clarity instead of confusion. You begin trusting yourself again. Stillness also protects your emotional energy. When you are constantly engaged in the world, you absorb negativity, stress, and emotional pressure from everywhere. Without moments of silence, these energies accumulate inside you. Stillness acts like a filter. It allows your heart to release what doesn't belong to it. It helps you distinguish between your own emotions and the emotions you have absorbed from your environment. You begin to realize that not every heavy feeling is yours. Some emotions came from the expectations of others, from the chaos around you, from situations that do not reflect your true self. In stillness, you can let these energies leave your body, creating space for peace to return. When you learn to return to stillness, you begin to understand that peace is not something you find in perfect circumstances. It is something you cultivate within yourself. Even when life is loud, you can remain centered. Even when challenges arise, you do not lose yourself. Even when emotions fluctuate, you do not collapse under their weight. Stillness becomes a habit, a skill, a way of living. It is the reminder that no matter what is happening around you, you can always come home to your own breath, your own presence, your own calm. This inner sanctuary belongs to you and cannot be taken away by circumstances. Stillness also softens your heart. When you are overwhelmed, your heart becomes defensive, irritated, impatient, or numb. But in stillness, the heart relaxes. It begins to open again. It becomes more receptive to compassion, kindness, understanding, and love. Stillness reminds you that beneath your exhaustion, there is tenderness. Beneath your fear, there is courage. Beneath your sadness, there is resilience. Beneath your anger, there is unmet need. Stillness helps you reconnect with your deeper emotional truth. It teaches you to be gentle with yourself, to treat your heart with softness instead of harshness, to offer yourself grace when you fall short. Stillness also strengthens your spiritual grounding. When the world becomes overwhelming, it is often because you have been away from your spiritual center for too long. You have been living outwardly, reacting, working, thinking, doing, without returning inward. Stillness brings you back. It reminds you that you are more than your stress, your worries, your responsibilities. It reminds you that your soul needs nourishment just as your body does. It reminds you that peace is not found through effort, but through surrender, through letting go of what you cannot control, through trusting that you are supported in ways you cannot see. In this way, stillness becomes a spiritual awakening, a reminder of your deeper purpose, a reconnection with the essence of who you are. Returning to stillness also helps you process emotions that you have ignored. Many people carry emotional heaviness without realizing it. They move through life with unprocessed sadness, unresolved conflict, unexpressed fear, or unhealed wounds because they